Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, your ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, we got 2 weeks in a row. This is unprecedented. No, it's
All
not
right.
unprecedented.
Let's keep it up.
We're on schedule. So when did we talk about concupiscence? Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? Something.
No,
like
it was a few weeks ago.
It was a while ago, but I brought up animals before the fall of Adam and wondered, were tigers eating? Oh, I think I was talking about one of Mark Twain's works. And,
that's right. The Diaries of Adam and Eve.
Yeah,
that he wrote.
Because all of a sudden everything was mayhem, and the tigers had grown teeth, and they were eating. The animals were eating each other and fighting, and he didn't know what was going on. And you had said that most theologians agree that meat eaters existed before the fall, and the animals were unchanged by the fall. And I thought, well, okay, but before the fall, we kind of have this picture of an absence of pain, and that the idea of animals eating each other just doesn't fit into that.
Doesn't seem to square with that, does it?
Right. So,
and that's really close.
What leads us to the discussion of today.
Yeah. So there's an argument against the existence of God that is put forth by some people. That it's kind of an interesting twist on the problem of evil. Usually when people present a problem of evil kind of argument, it's in relation to humans. They'll say something like, well, gee, how could a just God who has the power to prevent people from doing bad things to one another allow somebody like Hitler to come into existence, or Stalin, or Mao Zedong, or whatever?
Yeah.
And how could a just God allow, people like John Wayne Gacy and other serial killers to get away with their stuff, or some of the things that are done to children by abusive caretakers, whether it's parents or whatever,
or old people by
some of the
people like
things.
Mike DeWine and Cuomo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, how could a Cuomo come into existence, for example,
or
in a world with a just God? Or they might even point to more natural. Well, how could certain diseases exist? How could cancer exist with a just God, and all the suffering it causes? Or natural disasters like floods and hurricanes, and the way that people suffer because of that. Well, in the argument given to that typically, revolves around things like, well, God wouldn't permit certain evils if he couldn't, by permitting them, bring about some greater good than that which would exist without permitting them. And that gets into things like the nature and reality of free will for humans. If humans are truly going to have free will, that includes the will to harm one another and so on and so forth. And then you've got the whole relationship of humans with the universe and how it changed with the fall, and therefore natural disasters, and on and on and on. Well, and there are people, atheists, who will buy that, but then they get held up on this idea of what they think of as useless animal suffering. So they might say, well, okay, certain animals. Let's just look at the animal kingdom. Cougars have to eat, all right,
yeah.
And so what they eat is a gazelle. So the gazelle is going to go through pain, or a rabbit, or whatever, while the cougar is eating it until it is completely dead. But that serves a specific purpose. That rabbit's or that gazelle's specific pain in that instance serves the purpose of providing a meal for another animal. But what about the case where, for example, a deer, is in the woods, and a tree falls or a log shifts and traps the deer's leg and breaks it, and the deer is trapped and then dies a slow agonizing death of hunger that nobody knows about, and that doesn't serve any direct purpose. The pain doesn't serve any direct purpose for that deer in that instance.
Or a deer gets caught trying to cross a frozen lake.
fence.
Or a cemetery gate But
a cemetery gate.
I've also seen a deer kind of frozen in the middle of a river with its feet in the ice.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Stuck there.
That's
and
curious.
It's like, it's frozen. It can't get out. I mean, if I imagine it either melted and got loose or a dog came along and said, hey, a free meal.
It's something, possibly, yeah. But the idea, the problem presented is, well, God could have prevented that particular pain since it doesn't serve any specific purpose, and yet God permits those things to happen and that pain to be suffered. Why
and there's
would
no matter of free will
God?
here because the animal has not sinned.
Yeah,
because an animal can't
there's
sin.
There's no fault on the part of the animal. The animal hasn't done anything to lose some kind of cosmic harmony with the universe or something.
Right.
So there's a little bit bound up in this argument that and several things, each of which deserves to be addressed differently. I'm going to kind of focus more on one than the others, but one is there's this sort of implicit, and sometimes they explicitly state that the definition of a just God, the definition of the Christian idea of a just God, which is incorrect, but they state that this definition includes a concept that God would order the universe in such a way as to minimize pain throughout.
Yeah.
Well, we look at something like that, and of course, as Christians, and even before Christians, as Jews, I mean, look at, for example, the book of Job. We're brought up in a concept of you don't really get to decide what God would be according to God's own rules. You don't get to decide what a just God would be because God gives you the definition of justice, not the other way around. And all of the other things, goodness, beauty, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't work to imagine that we can understand either the mind of God or what God ought to do in any particular kind of situation with any aspect of his creation.
You know, whenever you hear someone say, God wouldn't, or why would God, you know that whatever's about to come out of their mouth is really saying, why would I, or I wouldn't, if I were God.
If I had God's powers, here's how I would do it. That's all it really means.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, you don't have God's powers, but
or his knowledge and wisdom.
If you had God's powers, it would probably come with God's knowledge, and you have no idea what that would be like. So why are you talking like that?
Right, it's not really something conceivable by us.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, that is a very sound thing to say, but it's not really satisfying in terms of answering the problem of animal suffering. And it's a problem that deserves some kind of answer. Even if we don't say, okay, we're going to tell you the mind of God, it's the kind of thing that deserves at least saying, okay, we're going to give you something that could fit with the mind of God that addresses your question. We're not going to claim this is the whole thing, or that this is exactly what God means by creation and how he went about things, but we're going to point out that there are reasonable assertions you could make and thoughts you could have about the universe and how it works and the animal world and so on and so forth that fit nicely with how everything is and fit completely within the concept of a just God, or at least don't imply some kind of injustice on God's part.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where I want to go with this.
Okay. And we're talking primarily about the pain that animals go through.
Yeah.
During whatever.
Especially think in terms of senseless pain that doesn't seem to directly serve a particular purpose.
Right. I had I guess a year and a half ago, I had this dog that had some kind of, it was a Great Dane. It had some kind of weird disease in the muscles that close its jaw. So that every time it clamped its jaw shut, it in extreme pain. And this dog's walking around, and then all of a sudden it would behave as if I was punishing it, like, hitting it or something, and trying to do things that it would normally do to try to please me, to get me to stop yelling at him or whatever. And it would climb under the couch, which it's a big dog trying to climb under a couch, or try to climb on Vicky's lap.
Lift up your couch.
That's an even, but it was difficult to watch that happening.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, let's either euthanize her, or maybe give her some kind of medicine that will make her not feel the pain.
Right.
That's what my inclination is to do, because my only relation to it is the pain that I go through.
Right, exactly. And that's actually a good segue, because the first thing I want to talk about is, what do we mean when we say animal pain? It seems obvious at first glance. Well, everybody knows what pain is. Pain, you hurt yourself, you cut yourself, you break a bone, whatever it is, you're in pain, you suffer, and you wish it would stop, and so on and so forth. And we might say, I think it's useful to kind of consider the question, how do we know that animals feel pain? And
which sometimes you ask that to people, and they just laugh at it. It's such a stupid question to them. You know what I mean? It's like, well, of course, I just told you the dog's trying not to feel pain.
Exactly. It's like our knowledge of...
They do have to stop and actually ask the question.
Yeah, because the thing is, the reason we think we know that animals feel pain is because animals do, when they are experiencing things that we know would be painful to us, a lot of the things that we do when we're in pain. I mean, we whine, we cry, we groan, we scramble to get away. If something's hot, we jerk, we jump. If our leg hurts, we limp, and so on and so forth. I mean, we favor it when we're walking. All of these things, some of them, with more complexity than others. Some are reflexive, like immediate, and some are, more, seem a little bit more trained and considered. But the point is, the animals do these things that we do. And so we might say, well, okay, I do this because I'm in pain, and my pain, within my pain, this is how I try to, work out the pain, or favor it, or let somebody else know about it, or whatever, any number of different things that we do. We can even think like a baby in pain, if we know. So we have that sort of empathy. But here's the thing: because we are aware of our pain, we make the mistake of thinking that our actions in response to pain have anything to do with our awareness of pain. And on some level, at some point, it can. But a lot of those things that animals do that tell us that the animal's in pain are things that we would do in response to pain, even if we were not self-aware creatures. In other words, our ability to deliberate and consider and, conceive what it would be like without pain isn't really what's causing us to do those things. It's rather a very complex, to be sure, but nonetheless autonomous. It's kind of built into our nervous system to act this way. We don't think about it and then come to a decision and say, you know what, I think I need to cry, and then cry. We just cry, or, jerk away, or favor a limb, or whatever. It's especially just built into the nervous system to do
especially that. Especially if we have some kind of programmed in instinct to survive.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To get away from the thing that's causing pain so that we can live.
Yeah. And so the reality is that we have the same ability as animals to experience pain on a sensory neural level, including the very complex neurological responses to pain, the brain activity, and the various things, plus the concept of memory, certain things are painful. We learn that after it happening a few times, so we avoid it or become wary of it. We don't like to go, if you're a child and you've gotten burned 3 times by a pot that was sitting on the stove that, your mom has boiling water, after the 3rd time you touch it, you're probably just thinking, yikes, that's a dangerous part of the house, and you don't even want to go near the stove.
I got some kids who would just keep getting burned.
You just keep doing. Yeah, well, you know what? And there's some animals like that as well. So, I mean, so, but the thing is, we share, because we are animals, we share in the animals' neural, sensory, and even neurological, the brain activity responses, reactions to pain, but we have the added benefit of being able to reflect on those and be aware of them. So it's not like animals are participating in our awareness of pain. It's more that we are able to reflect on our own participation in the standard biological reactions to pain that occur in all animals.
It would be fitting to point out that when God created all of this, he started in the Bible with these plants and animals that don't really do much, and built and built
creepy
and
crawlies
built
and so forth. Yeah.
And then after everything was big
higher
and small and all kinds of stuff, then he said, okay, now I'm going to make something special. And it wasn't like a whole new thing, but it was the pinnacle of all that he made. And that's why we share a lot of the same things with animals, like chromosomes and brains and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. And in fact, that kind of ties into my next point, because you could ask the question, well, okay, so pain is a reality, and rather than thinking that animals have our experience of pain, we should say, well, actually, it's just that we're able to reflect on a process of pain that also happens to occur in animals, but they don't reflect on it the way we do. But one could say, why put it there at all? Why create a process within, biological entities, animals, that we call pain, that if reflected upon would be, so torturous, and then allow that to, in individual instances, not serve any particular purpose. And that's where we need to get a little bit more, philosophical, and talk about there's a concept in philosophy called teleology. It's kind of like a study of purpose for things. Okay. And so we can talk about, various species of things, humans, angels, the natural world, the inanimate world, the animal world, the plant world, all these different things. And we talk about their telos, or purpose. And when we kind of reflect on that, it starts to yield a little bit of a sort of deeper clue about why that is. Okay. Now, one of the things is, if we just stop thinking about animals for a minute and think about the universe and think about us and how we learn things, how we even how we learn to relate to God. But often, we come to some knowledge, some intuition of God, whether it's an intuition based on gratitude, an intuition based on wonder, or whatever, by observing the physical world. But our success at observing, at living in, at being, stewards of, and so forth, the physical world relies on the physical world having a certain intelligibility, which means that it has to work according to rules. And so we discern these rules, we notice patterns, we figure out why the patterns occur. We've got whole branches of physics now that are, almost beyond imagining themselves. Plus we've got, biology that studies the plant and animal kingdoms and how all the various kinds of living things in the world interact. We've got cosmology and studies of the stars and how, stars form and galaxies form and we're just exploring all of this stuff, but none of it would make any sense. We wouldn't even have enough knowledge to do things like build a simple bridge across a river if the world didn't behave according to consistent natural laws.
Right.
And so that's one of the things to understand is that's kind of the baseline, is an intelligible world that behaves according to consistent natural laws. God desired us to be able to discover his creation and in it some aspect of himself, and part of that desire is how he set up the physical world. So there's a purpose to that. And that purpose can't be served by just making things that go willy-nilly without consistent, physical laws. So when we think about animals, possibly being trapped in ice or on a cemetery gate with spikes sticking up or whatever, that's kind of part of that thing. That's just part of the physical world, that it behaves according to those rules. And
people trying to jump over a gate and getting impaled or getting stuck in ice. And...
That's right. That same thing. Or, caught in avalanches or whatever. So
I have a serious fear of avalanches. I do
why
not
would
at
you
all
fear,
want to go
you're never
skiing.
Anywhere that an avalanche can happen.
I know. I never will be either.
Oh, like you won't go skiing in the Rockies or anything?
Right,
That's just
I won't
you
even
never...
go there if it's not summer. I'm not going.
Oh, wow.
Or
okay.
maybe fall. But before snow. I'm not going somewhere where there's snow and it could all fall on me. And I just can't imagine that much snow.
Well, there's parts
coming down.
There's parts of the Rockies that there's always snow.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't go there. But
okay.
I think about the early settlers, or heck, the Indians. I mean, they lived in these places.
Yes.
And the avalanches, I mean...
They happened. They knew to
they
be
happen
quiet,
a lot.
too. Especially during the melting seasons. They knew, hey, don't talk. Don't, if you're a settler, you learn not to fire a gun.
How did the families keep giving birth to more families when... I look at statistics to how many avalanches there are in some of these areas, and it's like, well, I guess maybe they just didn't go to those places to live. I don't know, but it would seem like most people would be wiped out.
Yeah, they might reserve them for hunting during the safe seasons.
Yeah, maybe people who live in that area are afraid of tornadoes and floods.
Yeah, could be something like that. Because those happen and those kill people.
Yeah, yeah, they don't scare me. I've been in a flood. It doesn't scare me.
Yeah, that would be interesting. How many? I mean, does it happen or has it happened frequently that villages are destroyed by avalanches, or does it tend to be just loners who are kind of happen to be out on the hill or in the valley below when it happened? So, maybe just people knew where not to build their hut or something.
Yeah. Huh.
So, anyway.
Okay.
Bit of a sideline. So we've got the telos of the natural world and its intelligibility. It needs to work, according to basic laws that don't just get interrupted all the time. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to rely on things and build stuff and develop technology and cell phones and so on and so forth. So then we can start applying the same questions about that to animals. And we can think of the telos of animals. And when you think about it, the thing about the animal world, and this occurs, this is true whether you're talking about the lower animals that you might not, they're scientifically they're part of the animal kingdom, but most people don't even think of them as animals. I'm talking like bugs and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether you're talking about that or talking about the higher animals, like, bears and elk and so forth.
Yeah.
The telos of the animal kingdom, plant kingdom as well, but the animal kingdom is bound not so much with individual animals as it is with populations of animals.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of those animals being there is to be a population because of how that population, and of course it's not a strict, balanced, never-changing system. populations are coming into existence and dying out, and new ones replace other ones in terms of serving their role within the ecology of the various parts of the world, and so on and so forth. But animals matter as populations, not as individuals. Now, we have a pet, and you go, wait a minute, my dog matters as an individual dog. That's my dog, Okay, yeah, right. But that's us assigning that telos to that dog. Now we've assigned a purpose of this dog to be my pet and to behave according to my rules and my expectations and for me to take care of, and so on and so forth. But in terms of God's creation of the animal kingdom, its purpose has to do with populations of animals, not individual animals. Now, in order for the population to thrive, however, the individuals have to have some ability to themselves thrive, because it's the individuals that give rise to the populations. They got to live long enough to grow to adulthood and then to reproduce, and so on and so forth. So that's where you start seeing, okay, what would it take for individual animals in a world with a lot of seemingly random things happening? I mean, it's a bustling world. It's a world where it's full of rules and natural laws that are always followed, and yet somehow chaotic. As a, you know what I mean? It's right. It's just kind of the way it is. It's like bursting with possibilities that are always coming into existence, and new things are happening all the time. So an individual animal has to be able to respond to that in order to grow to adulthood. So they've got to be able to find food. They've got to, a deer has to be able to wander to where the grasses are. So it's got to have legs to walk, but there's a lot of things that could harm that deer. So it has to have an ability to have receptors that give it a warning based on the severity of what's going on. Those are pain receptors. And then the response to that is complex. It'll jump away, or it'll run, or it'll remember not to go into a certain area again, or something like that. I think some animals are better at that kind of memory than others, but I think many of the higher animals develop that sort of thing.
Right.
And so this sort of sensory neural system with all of these different receptors, many of which are pain receptors, either pressure pain or interior pain, like broken bones, or belly pains from eating bad food, or any number of things. The whole thing is designed to promote that animal's ability to strive towards some kind of perfection. That perfection being that animal's coming to adulthood, reproducing, and so on and so forth. So it allows that animal to resist, or to avoid, or to respond in some way that gets it out of dangerous situations, but in extremely complex ways that when because we can, we're aware of it when we do it. And so when we see the same kinds of things in those animals, it's so complex that we are fooled into believing that the animal is reacting out of an awareness of the pain, in the sense that we're aware of it.
Yeah.
But like I said at the beginning, if we really took a moment to stop and consider our own process, it's not our awareness that causes us to react that way. We react that way out of biological instinct and sometimes necessity, and it's actually our awareness that sometimes allows us to act against that biological instinct and necessity in order to, for example, in the case, like if you're in a building fire and you're with a loved one, let's say, your child, well, you might cover your child, allow yourself to be burned so that your child doesn't get burned. That's, something a person might do. An animal won't do that. Now, there may be cases where animals do it, like a mother, lion. I don't know how much lions are family-wise, a pride of lions, but a mother lion, maybe in a forest fire, she would save her young rather and sacrifice herself. That
Right.
there may be animals that do that. That's a species preservation instinct.
Right.
Consider a coyote. We talk about coyotes; they get their paw trapped, and their instinct to be free is so strong that they'll chew their paw off. Now, consider a human in a similar situation, knowing that they need to get free. If they had a mechanism to cut their hand off, it's not a given that a person's going to be able to even make themselves do that. And that's the point, is that a
Right.
person thinks about that and is aware of that pain. The coyote, the pain is there while he's doing it, but he's acting under an instinct that places the need to get away above that pain. The pain is just a fact of doing what it needs to do.
Right.
So anyway, that's... Mm-hmm.
It when you talk like that, the thing is there's no like solid proof that this is the way it is. But some people might hear this argument and again just kind of laugh at it and say, well, I don't know. All I know is the dog yelps when I kick his the dog yelps when I kick it. So it must be feeling pain. And the idea that maybe pain isn't experienced the same way is something that they don't even consider. But it's not like the knowledge and feeling of pain are the only ways that we differ from these animals. And sometimes it's a matter of degrees, but there are so many ways that we differ from animals that it's really not that big of a stretch. For example, art and music. Animals can't, not only can they not make art and music, they can't even appreciate it. I remember watching a show on, it was a show about the brain, and they were talking about animals and the fact that they were trying to find a musical animal, any animal that could, I think they were relying mostly on the anticipation of a rhythm. So they might train an animal to do a certain thing when it hears a beat, but they can't make an animal dance with a beat because it doesn't anticipating the coming beat. They were doing things like that. And it was like, I think they finally found one single parrot that would move with a beat, but that's it.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I was about to say, my son Jeremy had a parrot, and now, for everybody, when I married my wife, she already had 3 children by a prior marriage, which was annulled and everything. But her oldest, Jeremy, he had a parrot when I met her, and that parrot would bop its head in rhythm to certain Elton John songs.
Huh. How about that?
and what's funny is that you said finally the one animal.
The dog's hurt. The dog.
What's the matter?
Stuck in his mouth, and it's like long ways. He can't get it out. I think he just got it. Is he choking? He's choking?
He's not choking. He is breathing. What was he eating?
A piece of that bone. I guess like the big long one, Come here, Banjo.
Here, I'm going to try to open it. We're going to try to reach in. Maybe it's just in his jaw.
Oh, there, I see it.
Okay. Is it just stuck in his
roof
of his mouth?
Yes, like flat against the roof of his mouth.
Okay. So he's not choking.
But it's hurting him.
This is weird that this is happening during this podcast.
Right while we're talking about this.
Get it out.
You have to explain what's going on when you get back on.
I can see
Okay.
it.
If I give you a knife, can you stick it in there and pry it loose real quick?
Can you get a boy?
How about a spoon?
Banjo, I'm going to help you,
plastic
okay?
knife.
I'm going to help you, baby dog.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's... Come here, Banjo.
Let's try. We're going to try to fix it, okay? You're not in trouble. Did you get it?
Yeah, I think I got it.
There it is! Yay!
All right.
Yay! We got it, Banjo.
The dog's not going to die.
I didn't know what to do. He started like...
All right. Yep. Go. Yeah, and then you got to tell that story because... So what?
Okay.
So you got to explain what happened, though.
So, So here's what happened. We're doing this podcast, and Vicky, my wife, comes in saying, "Help! I need help now!" And I'm like, okay, what? The dog. There's something wrong with the dog. So I guess it was chewing on one of those rawhide bones. And my dog doesn't chew it. He actually breaks it up and eats it.
Oh.
And a piece of that had gotten caught, like, it had wedged itself between either side of its mouth, like in the roof of its mouth, between two teeth.
Oh, like between the teeth on either side?
Yeah. So it had wedged itself in there, and he couldn't get out. Well, we couldn't see that. What we're thinking is maybe it's caught back in its throat, and it can't get it out. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to see if he's choking, and I'm reaching my hand down into its throat to see if I can feel anything. And with a dog whose jaws are strong enough to break those bones, it's getting difficult. But finally, we saw in the roof of its mouth this giant bone shard that was just kind of lodged there. So I took a plastic knife and shoved it in there and pried it loose, and that's what was it. But again, it was disturbing seeing the dog
because
act the way it's acting, because it's trying to get it out. It's not complaining. It's just trying to get the bone out. But it was, it was,
doing things that looked like it was in distress of,
right.
So,
and it's odd that happened right when we're talking about all this. But that's what happened a couple minutes ago.
Now
he's fine now.
Actually,
he's looking for his bone. We had to throw it away though because he keeps doing that, and no more rawhide. Actually, no. Wait a minute. That's not we threw all the rawhide bones away. I think that you buy those great big. I guess they're like cow bones at the grocery store for dogs. They're giant.
Now, are you
bones.
talking about the bones, or are you talking about the hides that they'll dry out?
Well, the hides are what we stopped buying because this keeps happening. This was an actual bone.
Oh, wow.
But they're the great big ones that I guess are from like a cow or a horse or something. And they've got a little bit of meat left on them. But give him a couple days and he'll bite through those too. It's a small dog too. I don't get it.
That's interesting. Well, that oh gosh, that reminds me of Uncle Tony used to have a dog, and he was telling me that those bones that are those steaks that have like the round bone in the middle, like I guess it's a ribeye or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
like a ribeye or
like a ribeye. Yeah. So anyway, that he had given the dog, one of those or something like that, and the dog was chewing on it or whatever, and got it like wedged like towards the back, like between his jaws, so that his mouth was stuck way open, and he couldn't get it out. Uncle Tony had to reach in with a pair of pliers and basically put the dog in a headlock and go in with a pair of pliers and break it to get it out.
That's about what I had to do, but
that sounds similar.
I'm good at grabbing them under the jaw to make them open their mouth. But I had an old sheepdog and I won't let any kids give the dogs a rib, because I had fed this sheepdog a rib, and all of a sudden it started acting all crazy. And it was kind of at the point where it was starting to pass out when I was able to get my hand in there and pull the rib. It would just stuck right there in its throat.
Yeah, I guess
if I hadn't been there, it would have died, I guess.
Yeah. But, that makes you think, okay, dogs and wolves, in the wild and stuff. I mean,
these are natural they go things first. That happen.
Yeah, they go first for the soft tissue, but then they'll know on the bones and stuff like that. And sure, these kinds of things will happen, and they'll die, and they'll suffer before they die. I mean, But oh gosh, you know what? That reminds me. I've got to tell this, because it's like I went to communion one time, and usually I tend to be one who, especially if the host is small. If it's big, I'll chew it, but if the host is small, I'll just let it soften a little bit on my tongue and then swallow it. Well, I'm a fidgeter, and so I mean I mess with things, and so I got the host, and it was like somehow it slipped off my tongue in my mouth and back, like just on the inside of my teeth, like not on the outside, but on the inside of my teeth, but back between my teeth and tongue in the very back to where my tongue was not able to manipulate it to move it forward. And it's like I'm just walking back to my pew, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to stick my finger in my mouth right in front of everybody. And I'm just thinking, yeah, Jesus is just sitting there laughing. Hi, I got you now, don't I? You know,
this was for talking back to your parents.
Something like that, yeah. Anyway, but you know what you were saying before kind of ties in with the next point, you know, where I was going, and this is interesting. Okay, so this happened to your dog. Let's talk about the hides that you used to give him. So stuff like this would happen. You'd have to take care of it. But did the dog ever stop eating the hides because of stuff like this?
No.
And you wouldn't expect him to.
Right. I stopped giving him
here's
to
the
him.
thing. Yeah, you had to stop. He wasn't going to stop. And that kind of comes into my next point, which is that the thing that allows us to truly experience pain as suffering that animals lack is the ability to contemplate and deliberate about things. So, for example, when an animal is in a state of pain, you know, if we're in pain, you know, like you broke your arm, it's like you're waiting at the ER and it's just hurting and you're waiting to, you know, get a shot or whatever to make the pain go away. But the thing is, you know what it would be like to not have that pain. You miss that. You have an ability to contemplate it and to contemplate its absence. Animals don't have that. When there is pain, that pain is just there. It's part of their existence. They're not contemplating a world without pain like we do. Yeah. And the proof, here's the thing. We all of the stuff that I've said about how animals experience pain, like I said at the very beginning, it's not like we can prove all that. Rather, it's a reasonable explanation for why a just God would set the world up the way it is.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this concept of deliberation, I think there is a little bit of something of a proof. It's a soft proof, but it's one of those things that if you think about how you act towards animals, you believe this. Even if you say, well, gee, there's nobody who can prove that. Well, the fact is you act as though it's already proven, and everybody in the world does. And it's exactly this. So think about, for example, training dogs. We can housebreak dogs. We can establish patterns. Okay, they have to go outside in order to go. Well, and then when they have to go to the door and they whine or they claw or they just sit there till somebody notices them, whatever. But they're trained. Okay. And you can also train them that they have to do something before they're allowed to get fed. So, you know, you can do that. And there's all kinds of wonderful things we train animals to do. But think about this. Let's say you have a dog and you take the dog out and the dog will go pee. Let's say he's going to pee, but he's not going to do the other thing. And you can, you know, that time out, now he's peed and now he's done being out that time. And you can stand there for 5 minutes. He's not going to do the other thing. You bring him in and immediately he has to go back out again because he has to do the other thing, and that's a separate trip.
Yeah.
Now, there may be ways that you could train the dog to do both at once. You could just wait 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes or something like that. Okay, that, you know, there may be various things you could do. But here's the thing that that's never ever going to work on any dog whatsoever. You go out, you give him his 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you're going to give him. He doesn't do the other thing, so you bring him back in, and when he has to go out immediately, you say nope, and you wait an hour before you take him back out. Now, if dogs had an ability to deliberate and contemplate, the dog would learn. The dog would think ahead about that discomfort of having to go, and it would take care of both business while it's out there. But that technique will never result in a dog changing its behavior because it doesn't have the ability to form those connections. It requires too much. It requires actual conscious deliberation. It's not just the standard patterning that you use when you train a dog to do all the wonderful things that you can train a dog to do. Now, there's another thing that proves that people don't really believe animals contemplate and deliberate. Let's say your dog gets out of the house. The door's open. The dog notices nobody's by it. He bolts. Okay. Maybe he's a bolter. He's just always, if there's an opportunity, he bolts. It's just some instinct for freedom. He wants to run the neighborhood. There's a favorite lake he has or whatever. He just bolts. Okay. Now, here's the thing. You may or may not decide to punish your dog for bolting. Maybe if he bolts and you catch him before he gets away, you punish him because it's kind of in the moment and you say, I'm going to punish you for bolting, whatever. But here's the thing. When we punish animals, we don't ever do it from a consideration of premeditation. When we punish humans, we consider that, especially for murder. Murder in the moment versus prior intent matters when we come up with a punishment. We never consider that when it comes to animals.
You mean like the dog didn't plan to bolt?
Yeah, we never say, you know what? Okay, you bolted. That time it was just opportunistic. You noticed it. But, this time you were actually thinking about it. You were scheming a way to be in the right place so that you could bolt when the opportunity came. So I'm going to punish you harder for it. We never approach that with any aspect of training or anything for animals, this concept of premeditation. Because dogs don't meditate. Dogs don't sit there and imagine bolting and then figure out a way to create the circumstances and do it or anything like that. Dogs may pick up on patterns and they may follow, they may observe a certain pattern that, oh, wait a minute, this follows this. And then through an instinct, they do whatever the pattern requires, but we don't treat anything as premeditation.
We also don't, some people try to. It doesn't work when you train on reflection. When the dog bolts, when it comes back and you punish it when it comes back, all you're doing is telling it, don't come back.
You're punishing it for coming back then. That's why, once the dog's gone,
won't make that connection.
Right, you've lost that. Now, get the dog a hot dog or a treat or something and reward the dog for coming back. That's what you got to do, because that's as far as dogs can think or understand. That's as far as their experience. Now, there's some trainers that say, if you can catch a bad act within, some say even up to as long as a half hour, you can still punish it and it can still be meaningful. I don't know whether it's a half hour or it's really more like 5 minutes. There's,
I do know there is a certain amount of time, but
it's right.
Yeah.
But you can never say, hey, you're getting less food today because you bolted yesterday.
Yeah.
We ground kids. We sit kids on the steps for a few minutes, even starting at the age of 2 or 3. And by the time they're 7 or 8, we'll ground them for bad behavior. It's like, and we expect them to understand and make the connection. We know that kids don't necessarily change their behavior. Mm-hmm.
When we were young parents, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking that these kids are like animals, and you have to, you punish them right then and there so that they know this is what they're not supposed to do. And I think it was at the age of 4 or 5 when I introduced the concept of grounding. So it's like, okay, you threw a fit, and aside from going to timeout, now you won't get the computer for an entire day. And I remember having the argument with Vicky on whether or not that would work because of the amount of time between what they did and this long-lasting punishment. But the fact is, it did work. Mm-hmm. Even at 5 years old, it worked. But it would be stupid to do that to a dog. It doesn't work with a dog.
Right. Right.
I could put him in a cage immediately, but not leave him there for any length of time. He's not going to sit and think, "Oh, well, that was a dumb thing to do."
Okay, gosh, yeah. he'll get the pattern connection of do that, go in the cage, and then once he's in the cage for a few minutes, long enough to forget why he's in the cage, there's no point in keeping him there longer. It's the recurrence of the pattern that establishes itself for the dog.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the other point is that, animals don't contemplate. They, their experience is just what's there before them. It's experience itself is a different kind of a concept for animals because they don't have an ability to either deliberate on their own roles or contemplate anything different than what is right now or anything like that. Even though, because of the truly awesome pattern matching powers and pattern recognition powers of the mammal brain, and even not the mammal brain, but even like bird brains and stuff, because of much of that kind of stuff, animals do things that are truly wonderful, but they don't deliberate or contemplate. So that's basically the argument. And like I said, it's not it's not a proof. It's a reasoned explanation for just one model of the physical and natural world that allows what we think of as senseless animal suffering, but permitted by a just God and a just all-powerful and all-knowing God. And so it's, basically the universe has to have rules that apply. That's to make it intelligible. The telos of animals is involved in populations. The telos of an animal's ability to react to pain is at the service of the population of animals, not at the service of the individual. It's the individual who, by thriving, achieves the population. And at the very least, all of us agree that animals do not deliberate, reflect, and contemplate the way we do. There are probably some people out there who think animals do all of those things. Those people do not work with animals. Yeah. So
you got the dog psychologists. They have their own shows now. Some of them who I think I caught like 5 minutes of one. I thought it was kind of silly.
Things like the dog whisperer and stuff like that.
Yeah, the dog whisperer. I think there was a King of Hill episode with the dog whisperer. Ladybird started biting people out of the blue. It ended up she had gone deaf and I guess the idea there was that it was she was being startled, and when someone would touch her, it would startle her, and that's why she was biting.
She would bite. Oh, okay. Yeah,
which I've seen dogs do.
Yeah.
All right. On that subject of pain, I have another weird phobia. I'm afraid of surgery because I'm afraid that when they put you to sleep, all they really do is two things: keep you from moving and keep you from remembering what's going on.
But so you'll actually be aware of it while it's going on?
Right. So during surgery, the drug makes it so that you're aware of everything that's going on, but you won't remember it. And I brought up that fear, and Jason's like, well, so what? Who cares if that's true? You don't remember it. And I said, but it'll happen.
Doesn't mean I want to go through it. You know what? I mean, having gone through surgery myself, I have absolutely no proof to offer you that that's not the case.
Yes, nobody can.
Now, what I can say is that there's an extremely rare phenomenon where people, I think, actually do wake up out of anesthesia and remain unable to move.
Yeah, I saw that in a show, and that's what brought on this fear of mine. And I thought, well, maybe that's everyone. It's just this person was able to remember, and that's what's different about that person. But I think
could be.
I think that happened to either Kathy or Alexandria.
Really?
Either Kathy or
during
her
what
daughter.
Kind of surgery?
Mouth. Something was being done to their mouth, like wisdom teeth, or I can't remember now.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. Something weird. I'll have to ask him because I forget exactly what happened. But I don't think
maybe it was like.
But they didn't feel pain though.
Oh,
I think they were aware, but they weren't feeling the pain, but they were aware of what was going on. And then I think the anesthesiologist realized that they were starting to wake up, so they gave them more medicine. I don't know, something like that.
I would expect that to be Kathy. She has one of those like super gag reflexes. If anything's in her mouth,
Yeah.
If you've ever been around her when she brushes her teeth, it's kind of nasty to listen to.
It's funny.
But so I could imagine that they had to just put her under completely if she had like wisdom tooth surgery or something like that. I had a couple wisdom teeth removed, and they didn't put me under. They just Novocained me up real well.
Are you
and
kidding
so I
me?
was kind of
Oh, they put me under.
no. And it was kind of cool. They drill into the tooth because I was like kind of paying attention to what they were doing, and what they do is they drill into the tooth to create a hole that they then take. Kind of like a pin, like a punch.
Like an awl?
You think of it as a punch, and they stick it in the hole and just pry your tooth out of the root, out of the jaw.
Okay.
And that's basically how they do it. And I confirmed with him afterward. I said, "Is this what you did?" Because that's what it seemed like he was doing. He said, "Yeah, that's how we do that." So, and then they'll check and make sure that there's no pieces of the tooth left in or anything like that, because then they might have to drill that out a little bit more or whatever. But
they put me under.
Didn't they? I thought they gave
I don't
you
know.
like nitrous oxide, like laughing gas.
No. They put me
No, they
under,
actually
but
put
I
you
don't
under.
know if it was... See, I don't know the difference between putting under and Twilight.
Oh, okay.
I think Twilight, you wouldn't remember that either, would you?
I don't know. I think I've heard of Twilight, but I've never actually specifically known what they mean by it. Like maybe almost
It's like...
Isn't
It's
Twilight
almost
like
under... So with
isn't
the
that
Twilight...
where like sometimes you talk and like you might say stuff that's embarrassing?
Huh?
So they have to almost like treat it like a priest's confessional sort of thing, like that they promise not to talk about.
Because you say things. I do know that people say a lot of weird things under Twilight, but I think that happens when they put you under and you're waking up. But with some surgeries, they have to put you under because you can't be moving or anything. But with Twilight, I think you're still kind of able to move around and follow directions, but you don't seem to be feeling
really remember
any pain
it after
or remember it. And I think it takes a certain license to administer the Twilight medicine and another license to actually put a person under.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think that's why they would use one rather than the other.
Well, if I ever need more surgeries, I'm going to ask if I can have a local. Okay, that would be weird if it's like heart surgery. Obviously, that it would.
Yeah.
But like knee surgery or anything like that, I'm gonna. In fact, if I ever have knee surgery, I'm gonna ask, can I sit up and watch? But
I don't not want to do that.
Really?
They did a local on me when they took my bullet out.
And that was bad enough, gross enough, huh?
It was weird.
Okay, you know what? You can't just
weird.
drop that, guys. He wasn't in some kind of gang war.
I was in a gang war.
And it wasn't even the bullet. It wasn't the bullet anyway.
I don't know. What was I, 12 or 13?
Something like that.
I didn't... Dad took a shooting every once in a while, but we didn't know about guns. We didn't we didn't know anything about them. All I knew is there's a bullet there, but what comes out of the gun is not that thing. There's a bullet and a shell. And I wanted a bullet without the shell because I'd never seen one, and I wanted to know what that was like.
Oh, I thought you wanted the gunpowder inside.
No, I wanted to see a bullet that didn't have its shell, that had been shot almost. So I was going to take them apart. Now, this is 22. I didn't understand the idea of a rimfire.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was. I said like a vice and a pair of pliers, right?
Yeah, that was my idea, but I didn't know what a rimfire was. So I put it in the vise and I just started tightening it, and then all of a sudden, bang! And I'm like, huh. And then I look down and there's this little hole in my arm, and I'm like, oh crap!
That could have
now they're going to know I had
anywhere.
a bullet, huh?
That could have gone into your. I mean, that could have hit you in the chest.
Yeah, that could have gone in my eye, or it went all the way.
My.
And it was the shell, not the bullet.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was saying. It wasn't even a bullet; it was the shell.
Yeah, and it went all the way to the bone and stopped.
Yeah,
it was resting on the bone. But I didn't know there was anything there. I was just like, I don't know. I showed Mom, and she thought I was kidding around. I said, no, I think I got shot. And so
I think I shot myself.
I think I shot
myself.
myself.
She picked me up from college like that weekend, And I got into the car, and the first thing she said, now this is, guys, back before the days of cell phones. In fact, this was the day if you wanted to call, it was long distance. It cost more money. So we just didn't,
money.
It wasn't like instant, oh yeah, something happened, hurry up and call everybody. Nothing like that. No Facebook or anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, she picked me up from college. I was a freshman at the time. And I got in the car and she said, well, your brother Eric shot himself. And I had this horrible thought in my mind that oh no, he tried to commit suicide or something like that.
They told Pee-wee, me and my cousin Pee-wee, we grew up together. We did everything together.
We've talked about it.
He got home from school, and my aunt said, "Oh, Eric shot himself." He went to his bedroom crying. He thought I was dead. All he heard was Eric shot himself.
Oh my! And he just took it to its natural conclusion.
But see, we could have just skipped over all that. We could have just said, "Yeah, that's when they took the bullet out." And left it at that, and people would think I'm real cool, and I got in some kind of gang war. Now I look like an idiot.
Well,
oh well. I think we're at the end of the subject.
I think we've exhausted the topic. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the news. So we talked about Cuomo. Yeah, New York State Assembly's Judiciary Committee is authorized to initiate an impeachment investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against Cuomo. And I guess, a lot of other people are calling for his investigation or whatever. Look, I saw the allegations against, or I saw like 2 of the allegations against him, and they're not real strong. Like a guy who likes to hug a lot, you can imagine this happening and it not really being that big a deal.
I even heard someone talking about it, and they were kind of pouncing on his response. It's like, why these 3? I do this all the time, and they were kind of treating it like he's admitting that he's a creep all the time. But to me, it doesn't sound. Okay, I don't like Cuomo. He's a creep in other ways. He killed a bunch of old people, tried to cover up that kind of stuff. But it didn't sound like that's what this. It's not even like he's Joe Biden liking to sniff women's hair or anything even like that.
Or
creepy.
Bill Clinton raping people. Even just sex or. Trying to get sex. It was just...
It's just like one of those people that greets with a kiss and hugs a lot. There are people like that.
We had an uncle who insisted on hugging you every time he saw you, and most of the time would also give you a neck kiss. Too. I hated that so much. Don't kiss my neck. It's gross when guys kiss other guys' necks.
I know.
But he did it every time.
A cheek kiss would be okay, but not a neck kiss.
Yeah. Anyway, the thing is, it bugs me that they're even talking about this. This man killed thousands of old people. He killed them. They would not be dead if it weren't for him. And nobody's talking about that. Well,
this
people are talking about the left-wing news isn't talking about that. And nobody's going after him for that.
No. But somehow they've seized on this harassment claim by his staffers because I don't know. The thing is, what's the purpose of it? Is this the left's way of getting rid of somebody they know is a bad actor without wanting to acknowledge the particular manner in which he was a bad actor, and so they're sort of concocting something else? Is that what this is? I don't quite get it.
That's kind of the feeling I get, but I don't know. Maybe he just made the wrong person angry.
And so
something that we don't
blowing it up
and we'll never know about. But the whole thing is weird, and I hope Cuomo's gone no matter why. But I think he should answer.
He needs
for the
to be gone, but
deaths.
it should be for the right reasons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Moving on, the family of George Floyd settles their lawsuit against the city of Minneapolis for $27 million.
Okay.
So these people are getting $27 million. On the other hand, the trial against that cop is just starting.
Right.
We have no idea what's going to come out of that.
Now, this was a settlement, not a
so there wasn't
trial.
even a trial or anything.
Right. Now,
why don't they
here's
fight
the
these
thing.
things?
Well, here's why. Okay, so first of all, you've got the trial. That's going to happen. Now, I'm going to kind of explain this just so people know that, because they might not be aware of this. And you might even, like recall back to the O.J. Simpson thing, too, as a reference. So on the one hand, you've got the criminal charges against the policeman. That's a criminal trial, and in order for him to be found guilty, he's got to be convicted by a jury who believes beyond a reasonable doubt, each one individually believes beyond a reasonable doubt that he's guilty. Or each one individually does not believe that, that it's been established beyond a reasonable doubt, and then they would acquit. But that's the standard. That's the standard of proof for criminal trials is beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay.
When it comes to a civil trial, so the family would have sued the city for wrongful death, which is a civil, what's called a tort case. And in civil tort litigation, the plaintiff doesn't have to prove harm or wrongdoing or whatever beyond a reasonable doubt. They only have to prove on a preponderance of evidence, which means, if you could think of it this way, 50% plus a little bit is all they're supposed to be. It's just there's a tiny bit more evidence that the plaintiff is correct in their claim for injury and the liability of the defendant than there is contrary to it. And based on that, that's called preponderance of evidence. The award goes to the plaintiff, or the finding goes to the plaintiff in that case. And that's the standard for civil trials basically everywhere in the United States. That's why, for example, O.J. Simpson, acquitted, but then sued under civil lawsuit, was able to be found. He was not guilty, but he was liable because there's two different standards for burden of proof. So that's why the city would say, so the city might say, okay, wait a minute, you what? You don't think the city was being sued?
I said that kind of stinks if you're getting sued.
Oh, it does.
Because
then
if
it's
someone's
like, okay,
acting
crap.
against you, because it's like, I got to bend over backwards to prove that, I got to basically prove that I'm not at fault here. Whereas,
and so the city looks at it and they say, okay, if we go to trial, because of such a low standard of proof, we might stand to lose $300 million. If we can settle for $27 million, that's when you look at it as a risk proposition like that, that's why it makes sense for the city to do that.
Yeah.
Now that exactly like you said, because there's what's called I'm going to call it remunerative damages. Basically, you pay back what you caused in terms of loss, and then there's punitive damages. Well, we're going to make you give the plaintiff a bunch of money because just because of the bad behavior, irrespective of how much it actually affected the plaintiff. And so that's why a lot of people, when they're agitating for tort reform and that kind of stuff, they want to just do away with the whole punitive damages part and say, hey, if you behaved badly, that should be a matter of a criminal act and you should be penalized by the state and that kind of stuff. But it doesn't necessarily follow that the plaintiff should get a windfall just because of your bad behavior. It should be more like the plaintiff gets what's due to them by the damages caused. And so that's one of those things that people put out there.
I'm not real sure where I stand on that whole thing.
Me neither. I go back and forth.
Reform.
That's it's one of those things that I see valid arguments both ways, and I think different things on different days.
Arguments in both ways, and the movie Avatar retakes its place as the world's highest-grossing film of all time. So I guess
its place.
Yeah. So I guess they were the highest, and then Avengers Endgame
made
more than them, and then there was a domestic release in China of Avatar, and now Avatar is on top again.
So is this including...
Have you seen that movie?
I have. It's stupid. It is so stupid. I have seen it, and it's so stupid.
It was almost worth watching once, but definitely not worth
I would never watch
it
again. It would be... Yeah, it's like once it was interesting. I mean, the story was a little bit interesting. The graphics were pretty cool. But the overall picture of it, it's like, oh man, that fell so flat. That was so stupid. It would be suffering to watch it another time.
So why did why did it gross so much?
I don't know, 'cause
that's what I just don't get it. Yeah.
So when they're talking about grossing, they're talking not just theater, but they're talking about like DVD sales and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So new release in China, spiked it up. Now it's #1 again.
Yeah. It boggles my mind. I mean, I think of movies like just the Lord of the Rings trilogy. How it outsold that when you don't see people dressing up as avatars.
Lord of the Rings.
Maybe that happened, but you don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Or even E.T. Of course, I mean, I don't know if they're allowing here for inflation and stuff like that, if it's just a dollar amount.
Oh,
it must be. Because Star Wars, come on.
Yeah, but if you think of Star Wars, that's a whole series.
Yeah, no, but just one. The number of Star
Wars.
Like
when Return of the Jedi came out, it set records for theater returns. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Did Jedi do more than A New Hope?
Oh yeah, because A New Hope was, that was like the first one, and that was just a movie. And
I know, but
people didn't have expectations for that. It was just a movie, and then it's, oh wow, this is really cool. And then and then Star Wars became a thing. I think The Empire Strikes Back grossed more than A New Hope did.
Really?
Because A New Hope had set the groundwork, and then it's they did another one of those. Yeah, now we got to see it.
I do not understand the entertainment industry. I remember picking up The Godfather by, was it Mario Puzo?
Yeah, the
something
book.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was at Mom's house, and I picked it up and started reading it, and I noticed on the cover it says it's the #1 best-selling book of all time.
Wow.
And I think...
That's surprising.
I don't know many people who have even read it.
I kind of wonder if that's true.
Maybe it's just...
Maybe best-selling fiction.
Maybe it's the best-selling from that publisher or something. You never know what they mean when they say these things.
Right. There's little ribbons on the books that,
I don't get these things. I don't understand how... I don't even understand how Avatar made more money than Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what they're saying, so, okay.
Yeah.
But it does remind me of... I want to say it was Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
Douglas Adams.
Yeah, the guy sold his soul to become an all-time best-selling musical artist. Was that, or is that the next one? Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul.
I only read the first Dirk Gently.
Okay.
And
it must have been the second one.
I don't remember that. Yeah.
The second one was this guy who had sold his soul to the devil to become a famous music artist, and he became a famous music artist. Everybody knew his name. Everybody bought the album. Nobody listened to it. But he was a best-selling musical artist. It's just that nobody really liked him, and nobody actually listened to it. It's just funny. He sold a lot of records. So I wonder if the guy who made Avatar had sold his soul to the devil.
Oh yeah, is it a similar
best-selling movie? I don't know.
Everybody buys it. Nobody watches it.
Yeah. Everybody went to the theater, paid for a ticket, and then left.
Nobody liked it. And then they bought the CD, and it sits on a shelf.
Yeah.
You watched it at the theater because you were expected to, and then you bought the CD or the DVD because you were expected to, but you're never going to actually watch it again.
Okay, so The United Kingdom formally declares China to be in breach of the 1984 Sino-British or Sino-British Joint Declaration, saying that they're in a state of ongoing non-compliance of the treaty. And this is in reference to they're convicting these people in Hong Kong who are trying to free Hong Kong. And I guess some part of the UK
treaty
is trying to stick up for Hong Kong, basically.
Well, good for them. I hope they make a lot of noise and bring others into that.
I don't think anything will come of it. But
was this a treaty that established Hong Kong independence, though? That would have been more than just China and Britain, though. That would have been a broader international treaty. No, maybe not, because maybe Hong Kong was initially a British colony, and so Britain had an interest in keeping their independence, keeping it independent from China, even when it wasn't a colony of Britain. I don't know the history of Hong Kong, but it would make sense for something like that. Okay,
so
you know what? I typed in was Hong
Sino-British
Kong.
Joint Declaration. Treaty signed between UK and China on Hong Kong under Chinese sovereignty. Describes the sovereign and administrative arrangement of Hong Kong after 1997.
And in fact, Hong Kong was a British colony, just like I thought.
Okay.
So that's why that's why it would be a British-Chinese treaty that established Hong Kong's independence.
Okay.
And now China, true to form, is violating that.
Yeah.
Well, I hope Britain succeeds in sticking up for Hong Kong.
Yeah. But we know that's not going to happen.
Not likely, yeah. But you know what? I don't even think there would be a movement to stick up for Hong Kong if Britain were still part of the EU.
Yeah.
Because, the rest of the EU, the EU bureaucrats,
I thought
they don't
they
care
basically,
about it.
I thought they really still were. I mean, have they exited yet, actually?
I think so,
I mean, are they entirely... Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, for example...
wasn't keeping track of that. I keep, every now and then I see it in the news, and I've been skipping that part of the news because I just...
and it's created some
a section of
complications.
Culture I don't want to give any energy to because it's...
Yeah, I know.
I just don't care enough.
But, like, for example, Ireland, which is separate from the United Kingdom, is still part of the EU. And so what used to be, because Ireland and the United Kingdom were both part of the EU, travel between Ireland and Northern Ireland was seamless. Northern Ireland is part of the UK. But now, Northern Ireland, along with the rest of the UK, is not part of the EU, but Ireland is, and so it creates, a little bit of difficulty, I think, along that
So
border.
they are separated again in that way?
Ireland was
Ireland
always separate from the United Kingdom, but a part of the land that's contiguous with Ireland, called Northern Ireland, was part of the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So Northern Ireland was a separate country from Ireland, and there are some people, a minority within Northern Ireland, that have been agitating to break away from the United Kingdom and to become part of Ireland instead. But that's a minority.
Okay.
That's the whole IRA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But basically, Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, part of Great Britain, and Ireland is not. And so it used to be that while both of those were part of the European Union, because you get your European Union passport or whatever it is, you can travel among all the European Union states. But now you've got to go through a border now between Ireland and Northern Ireland that maybe was a little bit less problematic before Brexit. But yeah, Brexit is a real thing now.
Okay. The Grammy Awards, the 63rd Grammy Awards are being held in L.A.
So what?
It's in the news. It's just reading the news.
63 of them.
Anyone even? Do people still watch? I didn't know they
Okay,
still
remind
had
me.
them,
Are the Grammys for movies or TV?
I don't know. Or music.
Or is it music? Maybe the Grammys are for music.
I have no
you know
idea.
what? I am so deplorably ignorant about entertainment award. The entertainment award. It's like a whole industry in of itself. You've got the entertainment industry, which is odd enough, and then you've got the entertainment award industry.
Which is a bunch of people getting up and making speeches against Trump.
Yeah.
For the
I know
past
the
4 years,
Oscars,
that's
the
what
Oscars
it was.
are for
Now
movies.
nobody even watches them.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, the Grammys are probably music. That's right.
Okay.
All right. I mean, in some ways, I wish I wasn't so ignorant. But it's like the energy I would have to expend in order to be knowledgeable about these things is so not worth it.
Right. It's like, well, I can use that energy somewhere else. So, the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith rules that priests cannot bless same-sex unions or marriages, saying that any such blessing is not listed.
Boy, I bet that was a bitter pill for the Pope to swallow to allow that.
Yeah. I would think that it's obvious. I mean, there could be no other answer. But
why does that even need a declaration? But it's because priests in Germany are doing just that, and probably other places too.
Yeah,
who knows? Probably Slim Jim Martin's running around advocating for stuff like that.
The thing is, I don't know. Okay, so let's say they fell in the other direction for this. I mean, what would you even call that? It's obviously not right.
Yeah, but does it doesn't quite fit the definition of heresy.
Right.
Extreme.
It's just sinful.
Disciplinary. Yeah. You know what though? What it would actually be. We have a model for this, and it's in the Bible. We have a biblical model for this. When Paul is writing, who is it? Is it in Galatians that he talks about withstanding Peter to the face? Because Peter, who is now supposed to be under the new rule of Christianity, was refusing. He was taking himself out of a non-kosher meal, not because he believed he needed to still be kosher, which would have been wrong of him to believe that, but only because his fear regarding the appearance, his reputation
like
among
Jewish
the Jews.
snobbery.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It's
okay, but
basically
I don't know.
Paul says, Peter was clearly wrong, but it wasn't like a teaching of heresy, and Paul calls him out on it. I think that's the kind of thing this would fit in.
I don't know, because on the one hand, you're talking about Peter, who's a man who does sinful things, and in this case, he did it publicly. But this is a little bit different because this is a body of the church responsible for defining rules and, in some cases, spelling out doctrine, right? So,
yes, but
when they err, how does that fit into our understanding of the church's infallibility?
Well, the church isn't infallibility in the application of, the correct application of doctrine to its rules and disciplines.
Yeah. Well,
to be sure, it creates a tremendous scandal. There's a lot of people out there who, it's like, it's one of those things where we have to trust that the Holy Spirit knows what He's doing, because there's a lot of people out there who either aren't even going to be capable of making the kind of distinctions, or who just aren't going to want to. It's like, oh, okay, well, the church is for gays now, and either that means they're going to say, all right, well, being gay is okay, or they're going to say, well, I'm out of this church. Either way, it's a problem.
Yeah.
But, that's one of those things where we just have to trust that the Holy Spirit knows what He's doing here. If they had gone the other way. Fortunately, they didn't.
Well,
but there's a lot of things about which things do seem to be going the wrong way.
Yeah, all kinds of things. And, some of them are doctrinal, but a lot of it's just, I don't know, like, okay, the Pope's got this book coming out, God and the World to Come, and I don't know, I was reading some of the quotes from it, and I don't even know how to describe them. They're so, like this one, we must save lives, not build weapons to destroy them. Where does he see this in the Bible? What's he talking about?
And what does that mean?
Things like this constantly.
When you build a weapon to defend your people, you're saving lives.
Yeah, doesn't that save lives?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a childish, not in a good way, not in the not
childlike,
such as these belong
childish.
the kingdom, right? But a truly childish kind of way of viewing things.
But then, okay, that's just flat out silly. But then we've got other quotes from Pope Francis saying things like there should be special laws protecting homosexuals. And then he talks about homosexuals needing families and things like that. And it's like, okay, are you suggesting that there be a law that I can't throw my son out of the house for being gay? Is that what you're getting at?
Right.
Because
it's like,
that would be why would there be any law telling me when and when not I can throw my son out? I can't throw him out till he's 18. When he's 18,
regardless, then
I can do it
your rules,
no matter
your house. Your
doesn't
rules.
matter what.
Right.
I mean, you can't just make a law that says I have to let him live with me forever.
You can throw him out just because you think he needs to learn to survive on his own.
Right.
Don't even need
Which
a reason.
A lot of people do. But it just statements like that. It kind of shows you how far left-leaning he is, but it doesn't quite violate that understanding we have that
of the infallibility of the
So
that's
I can't wait till this pontificate is over.
Yeah, well, let's hope the next one isn't worse. But I think this is because over the years, I think you're right that Satan his knowledge of the universe and everything else is like immense, but his knowledge, his empathic knowledge of humanity that would allow him to understand what temptations are like. I mean, he can try things and see how people respond. He knows what kinds of things are wrong. He could try to direct people's minds and so on and so forth. But over the course of human history and certainly over the course of the history of the church, he's had to go through periods of trial and error. And I think it may be that he's, he may have many times attempted to get the church to fall into direct error.
Yeah.
In a way that the Holy Spirit protects. But I wonder if this is Satan learning a more subtle and finessed way of turning people away from the church by this confusing gray area.
Yeah. Well, it's frustrating to people like you and me because it makes other people confused. But the real understanding of the church and the church's teachings and our understanding of things like homosexuality, it's out there to be found. It's not like it's hidden. You can go look it up and you can see what the church teaches exactly on this subject. And it is what it is and it can't change. So that's why we remain Catholic, despite all these weird statements from the Pope.
Yeah.
Have you heard about these massage parlor shootings in Georgia?
Only because when I got home this evening, my son said, "Hey, have you heard about those shootings in Georgia at massage parlors?"
Your phone said that, or did someone text you that?
No, my son said that to me.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, he said, "Yeah, that's." He said basically someone was shooting people at massage parlors. That's all I know.
Yeah,
that was what he told me. I haven't even looked it up.
It's like a mass shooting, but they're saying a series of mass shootings. It's 3 different spas near Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. Now, are we to put the word massage in quotes here, or are these legitimate massage parlors?
Well, it's just saying spas. And then later you read into it and find out they were massage parlors. And I think you would put that in quotes.
Okay.
So the story I'm reading mentions that 6 of the 8 people who were shot were of Asian descent, which is
men or women.
It's kind of a pointless thing to say. I mean, so what were the other 2?
8 of them were
Asian.
Yeah.
If they were all Asian, then you would say, well, this.
But are they
maybe
men or
you
women?
could say this guy. So, well, this guy is apparently. They've got someone in custody, and even after he's already said it was not motivated by race. So I don't know why they talk about the fact that 6 of them were Asian, but they did, and that's why I'm saying it. Anyway, he was. They were motivated, he said, by his sexual addiction. I guess he's got a sexual addiction, and he, I guess.
Okay,
like,
so definitely
like
massage
shooting
goes
up
in quotes.
a porn shop or something,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Apparently he must frequent a lot of spas. I've never been to a spa, so
I've never been to a spa.
So I guess he goes there and he's addicted to it, so he decided to shoot people. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, they've got a guy. And he's in jail.
I guess that's one way to deal with an addiction. But
the spa workers can rest at ease now. They're not going to get shot.
So he was shooting the workers, because I would thought, well, maybe he had a daughter that was kidnapped or something, and he was shooting the men who ran the place or something like that. That's why I asked, was it men or women who were shot?
Yeah, it says 6 people.
They're not saying then.
6 of the people were women of Asian descent.
Okay. The other 2 might have been men of Asian
maybe
descent.
Workers or something.
Might have been men of something else. Might have been women of non-Asian descent. They're not saying.
But it wasn't like the movie Taken where he's going to get his daughter. It was him.
Right. Nothing like that.
He's a creepo sickoi, and he's taking it out on the people who tempt him, I guess.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So President Biden says that President of Russia, Putin, will pay a price for leading efforts to influence the 2020 U.S. presidential election.
Seriously? He's still on that? Hasn't he gotten the memo that when they investigated, they found out that
Biden?
They found that everybody except Trump was guilty?
No, he's talking about the 2020, not the 2016.
All the attempts to influence the 2020
won.
election, the one just now that he won. So what?
Yeah.
What the heck?
I don't know. We've got 4 more.
I
years
could
of
see
this.
where Putin would want Trump to be in office because Trump is a remedy for China.
Yeah.
And Putin is worried about China. It's not that Putin agrees with anything that Trump stands for. It's that he's worried about China. So I could see that he would want Trump to be in office because we know Biden's going to give China whatever they want.
But I can also say the man really has no power in America. And
no, influence how? This will be interesting to see.
Like if I take an ad out that promotes one candidate over the other, am I trying to influence the election? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that,
and that's okay.
You're supposed to do, even if you were a foreign. I would think that foreigners are allowed to do that. I'm not sure,
if
but
Putin takes an ad out in the New York Times saying, all the reasons Trump should be president, I'm not sure that that's an improper attempt to influence an American election.
Yeah. Oh well. So Joe Biden's jumping up bad on Putin, and it's just silly. So there's more evidence that Iran has started enriching uranium, and that's still going on. So, and that's going to continue going on. And I don't know. I don't know. I see all kinds of bad things happening with Iran, but I have to wonder if all of this is just an excuse to get back into wars again, because Trump kept ending wars and not starting
and getting
wars.
us out of wars and brokering peace.
And now we're back to business as usual. So
need to keep the machine running.
Yeah. Oh well, that's all I got.
It just occurred to me when Biden smiles, he's got that weird big smile. I've said before on this podcast that Biden gives me a serious ick reaction when I see him. That I didn't even get from Clinton. So have you ever heard of the Momo Challenge hoax or the Momo Challenge?
No.
MOMO. Are you on your computer? Just Google Momo challenge, and look at the picture that comes up. MOMO, yeah.
Is a hoax. That's weird looking.
That's what Biden reminds me of when he smiles.
That was what is that?
I don't know.
That's really freaky looking.
Oh, I know. I don't like looking at it, and I don't like looking at Biden
because
it reminds me of that. Oh, it's like a suicide thing.
Oh.
But it's like a hoax. It really wasn't a thing, but it's like an urban legend kind of a thing.
I see. Okay. That is very freaky looking. I could have gone my whole life without ever seeing that.
I'm sorry I inflicted that on you, but now you're going to think of that every time you see Biden, too.
Yeah, I know. I won't put any links to that on the website, but if somebody wants to know what the Momo challenge is,
you can type
it's
Momo
a little
challenge
bit disturbing
in Google.
looking.
Yep, it is disturbing. Not for kids.
Right.
Okay. So nonsense news. This is kind of I struggled whether to put this. I guess there's a show called Celebs Go Dating.
What's it called?
Celebs Go Dating. It must be a British thing. It sounds so stupid. Okay. Celebs Go Dating. Anyway, so the star Nadia shares the strange way in which she discovered that her boyfriend of the time had been cheating on her. They had synced their Fitbits, and it showed that between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., his Fitbit indicated that he had burned over 500 calories.
Huh. And that's how he, at 2 a.m.
That's how she discovered that
calories.
That's how she discovered he had been cheating on her.
I could think up all kinds of explanations for that.
2 a.m. run, 2 a.m. workout, 2 a.m.
How about a wet
I don't
dream?
know, 500 calories worth?
Or a nightmare.
I don't think so. Maybe a nightmare.
Your blood gets pumping pretty good in a dream.
Yeah, okay. That could be. Maybe a nightmare. Well, there doesn't seem to be anything in the story about him rejecting it, but some people have offered, because she put it on one of those social sites, and some people have offered a few possible...
When someone cheats on you, you put it on a social network?
Well, somebody had posted...
I guess that's what people do nowadays.
Possibly. There was a TikTok user who asked people to share the moment when they knew their relationship was over. And so she decided to go ahead and share this bit.
She shared that. Huh.
So, and other people offered some alternative explanations. Dancing, fighting, Parker. What's Parker? Parkor. Kour. I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
Running from the police. Okay, yeah, 2 a.m. running from the police. I get it. You knocked over a gas station or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
well, I mean, like if you hear, it's 2 a.m., you hear something in the middle of the night, so you get up to investigate. You saw something weird down on the street, so you ran down there to save a woman from being beaten up by an evil man. And
I have a feeling that if it had been any of those alternative explanations, they would have settled it out, and she would think of it as a funny story.
Yeah.
So this is probably legit. So
if you're going to cheat on your girlfriend or wife or whatever, take your watch.
Take your Fitbit off. Yeah. Or better, don't cheat on your girlfriend, wife, or whatever.
A Fitbit. What is it? A watch or a? Is it
It's an activity tracking device that also does things. It'll track your activity. Tell you how many calories you burned, walking, running, various things like that. It'll also, you can set it up, that the more advanced ones, you can set it up to remind you every so often you need to get up and do something physical, stuff like that. It's kind of one of those fitness craze things that people get.
People are way too into fitness.
Yeah, I know. And then you can a couple can get them, and then they can synchronize them, and I guess that then they can compete to see who gets the most steps and stuff like that. I think there was an episode of Big Bang where after Raj and Bernard, did you watch that whole series, or did you stop watching it after a few?
I stopped watching it. They made fun of Christians too much.
Okay. Yeah, they especially with like Sheldon's mom and stuff.
As funny as that was, and then first of all, it was just flat out. It's not like they didn't even hide it. It wasn't even subtle. Just flat out making fun of Christians. The same with The Simpsons. I don't know why, but like I've watched them before, and I've watched most of the series. There's like 20 something seasons. And
long running show.
Nobody's watched them all, but I've watched a lot of them. And then recently I started watching them again. And
it's like, wow,
I just noticed
really
it's like,
blatant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why am I watching something that's going to make fun of me nonstop? So I switched to King of the Hill, which is not, if it does poke fun at Christians, it's kind of it's more self-deprecating fun. It's not making fun of Christians.
Right. Well,
I prefer King of the Hill.
I think I believe that I've become a lot more sensitized to that over even just the past 2-3 years than I was certainly like say 10 years ago. But anyway, there's an episode of Big Bang where Raj and Bernadette, who had gotten married, they had Fitbits.
No. Raj and
No, not Raj. Howard and Bernadette got married. Howard had and Bernadette had their matching Fitbits, and so he rigged a machine at work at the university to basically it was like one of Dad's machines. Think of Dad's. You remember Dad's automatic hacksaw, the powered hacksaw. Think of something like that, except it was just a wrist that he slipped the Fitbit over, and it went in a motion that you could think of your wrist pumping when you run. And like, for whatever reason, he had like turned it up. It got turned up real high or something like that. And so at the end of the show, they showed Bernadette asking, "Why does your Fitbit say you ran 10,000 miles?" Anyway.
I wonder how long Dad spent making that machine that basically just moved the saw blade back and forth. And then
you know what?
It held it at an angle, and it did turn it off once it sawed through.
When it was, and it was kind of interesting because you would see it like starting to grab the switch a little bit, and then finally it grabbed it, and when it grabbed it that final time, it was so perfectly tuned, that's when it was sawed all the way through.
That's when it was done.
It was perfect.
Yeah. It was a neat little machine, but
gosh, he used that a lot.
Yeah,
he have something to saw. It's like, okay, I'll just set it up here and have it go, and then he'd be doing other stuff while it's sawing his angle iron or whatever he needed to saw.
Yeah, because he was always. I mean, Dad's not an engineer, so it's like everything is kind of eyeballed together, and it never looks pretty when Dad makes it, but usually it's functional, and he would get it to work just by welding pieces of angle iron together to make it do whatever it is he wants it to do. It's funny the kinds of things he came up with.
I mean, this machine, some aspects of it were a little bit clunky visually, but it was actually quite elegant as a machine.
Yeah, it was nice.
All right. So, this is also from Britain. A woman decided, I guess a mom decided, I'm going to find out what's really real about McDonald's food. And so in April of 2004, she bought a cheeseburger and fries.
Okay.
And so this past month, 17 years later, she opened it. And with a little bit of drying out, there was no mold, by the way, on them. She just kept them in the bag. No mold on them, and except for a little bit of drying out, they basically looked like a McDonald's cheeseburger and fries.
Did she freeze it?
No.
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 So she just took a hamburger and fries and what? Set them in the...
And set it somewhere.
Or?
No. Set it somewhere. Assumed that mold would grow on it and stuff. She was just kind of curious. Opened them up. No mold. The fries were like, dried out and hard. The bun was hardened, but it basically looked like a cheeseburger and fries.
No way.
Yeah.
People eat that stuff. Holy cow.
I guess there's a corporate there's a McDonald's website in the U.S. contains a statement about why their food doesn't always decompose. I guess McDonald's had to actually answer this at one point. It reads, in the right environment, our burgers, like most other foods, could decompose.
Could, huh? Most of the time you'd say will decompose.
Yeah.
Always decomposes, but not their burgers and fries.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, all right.
I'm glad that I don't eat McDonald's, but I will admit that during Lent, I go through a lot of those fish sandwiches.
I love their fish sandwiches.
I don't know why. I like the tartar. They have good tartar sauce in their fish sandwiches.
Yeah.
They go down real easy, and I don't know. That's the only thing I eat from there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the apple pies.
Oh. I hardly ever eat there, but you know what? When I do eat there, I'll tell you what. I'll admit this. I like their fries, but here's the problem with their fries. They're only good when they're hot, and they get cold real fast. So it's like you get a large fry, and you've been able to eat maybe about a third of them before they're too cold to be good anymore.
See, I think that about all fries.
There's some restaurants where I like the fries, and I like them right up till I'm finished with the plate.
Huh.
Actually, you know
I don't
what?
care for any
Frisch's,
fries, really.
I like Frisch's fries. They
Except
still
for
have the
Rally's. Wally's.
Oh, the Rallies. Yeah, those are pretty good, too. They have their seasoned fries.
Oh, well.
All right. Next. So, Thailand Hospital introduces cannabis into their restaurant food menu. I guess there's a Thai marijuana. I guess there's a Thai custom of cooking with marijuana.
I wonder, is it the taste of the marijuana, or is it the THC?
No. I think it's the taste. I think it's the small amounts of the plant. Yeah, it's a culinary thing. It's one of those tastes that they like. And actually, I got to admit, I kind of like it too. There's a beer that I like to get.
Really?
It's called hemp something or other, hemp emperor or something like that.
Yeah, I think that was the beer of the week once when we were doing that.
Could have been, right. And
I
gotta admit, I like it.
Talked about it. I don't understand. I don't like that taste at all. And I know like two different people who swear by marijuana tea, which wouldn't have
taste
the
or
THC
for effect?
in it.
Yeah, I'm sure the beer doesn't have the THC in it. Besides, wouldn't you have to absorb that through your lungs anyway?
No, but it has to be. Like running hot water through it is not going to get the THC out of the leaf into the tea.
Oh, okay. You would have to actually consume
it. It has to heat up really hot in order to be released at all.
So people
generally smoking it is all.
That's why you smoke it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But if people bake brownies with it, that's a thing, right? You bake brownies.
You have to fry the leaves and you have to make THC butter.
Oh, okay.
Because it's an oil.
Yeah.
So you got to get the sap out of the leaves. But boiling them in water is not going to do it. It's
got to be really, really high temperature. Okay.
Yeah.
Almost like a steam, like a pressured water to get the temperature way up.
Right. You can. I think you can get these little things where you steam the leaves, and you could do it that way. It's like it vaporizes something. I don't know exactly how it works.
Just boiling. Okay.
But just boiling water is not going to do it.
So, anyway, this is a taste thing. It had been. It's kind of a long use, both medicine and cooking. But its sale was criminalized in 1934. Last month, the country removed the plant from its narcotics list, and it has been reintroduced, an old custom, in the foods of a certain hospital.
Thai hospitals.
Thai hospitals.
Huh.
Oh well,
they
but based on what you've said, that doesn't sound like it's just like a small amounts thing, more of a taste thing. So I don't think it's not like they're all suddenly turning druggies or anything like that. It's just kind of interesting.
Right. Oh well.
All right. And my last is, it's not really nonsense. It's just kind of neat. On a flight from, let's see, where did this flight go? From Bangalore to Jaipur I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Jaipur. A baby was born mid-flight. India.
Oh,
Bangalore
India.
is India.
Okay.
Yeah. India crew members helped with the delivery. The picture shows the crew standing outside with what I assume is the mom in a wheelchair holding the baby. Kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, it is a neat thing. You know, that kind of thing has never happened to me, but it happens. It seems like in almost every sitcom, there's an episode where somebody has to deliver a baby.
Yeah. Whether it's on a plane, on a train, in a
somewhere someone's having
sitcom,
a baby.
Yeah, somewhere unexpected. Yeah. So this is the real deal. Mid-flight, she had her baby. Must have been the pressure change that brought on the labor. I don't know.
Could be. Having babies is neat, but it looks painful.
The moms have my hero.
Were all yours born in the hospital?
Yes. Yeah, we didn't have any home deliveries or anything like that, or emergency deliveries.
Right. Well, all of ours were in the hospital, but one, and all of them were the shot that they give you in the back, epidural.
Oh, okay.
Except one of them, we get there, and this is one that they didn't induce. It came on naturally, and there's apparently a whole bunch of people were having babies that night. So our doctor's downstairs, and we're like, "You're going to come up here, anesthesiologist. You're going to come up here and give her epi," and they kept putting us off, and her pains are getting harder and harder, and they're getting to where they're 20 seconds apart, and I'm thinking, it just dawned on me at one point, you're not getting one. You're going through this natural.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she's still behaving as if she thinks she's getting one. And I'm understanding at this point that she's not getting one, but I don't know what to tell her because I would never want to hear that myself. And I'm getting scared to death because I can't even imagine going through that kind of pain. I would have said, knock me out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Take a blunt instrument and smack me on the head and then wake me up when it's over.
Yeah.
I guess that doesn't work real well because you got to push.
Because you got to push. Yeah, you got to be there doing it. Well, yeah, that's the only one that I think got the epi on was the one that in order to make it convenient, and we shouldn't have even agreed to this, but to make it convenient for the midwife, we agreed to induce. And I think that was Charlie. I think that's the only one that she got the epi on.
Well, she got on all of ours except for Sam. That was more pain than I've ever seen anyone in. So I didn't really want to see that again.
Sam's a big guy. Was he big as a baby too?
He was not that big as a baby.
Oh, okay.
He was large for us, but he wasn't. He wasn't
as
huge
babies
or anything.
Go. Okay.
But I don't know.
All right. Anyway,
I thank God for those.
Yeah. So that's my last.
Yeah. So I guess that's all we got. What time? It's pretty late anyway. I got to go to bed.
Yep. We need to get sleep. Wow, it's almost 1:00. 2 hours.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Oh, you've got a little bit to cut out, but okay.
Okay. Well, folks, think about what we said, and we'll see you next week. And as always,
circle the beads.
Keep praying, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.